The Carabao dust has settled and it's back to reality. Lincoln and Charlton haven't faced each other in the league for nearly 60 years, but all that changes today. Can the Imps continue their perfect start? Welcome along to another episode of Matchday Live as Lincoln City prepare to face Charlton Athletic here at the LNER Stadium. On today's show, we'll be hearing from the new signing, Brennan Johnson, along with both sets of managers. And of course, we want to hear from you, the fans. So please do get your comments in via the club's Twitter, Facebook and YouTube channels. And of course, I'll do my best to read them out throughout the show. As ever, Gary Hutchinson joins me. Gary, are you well?
I'm very well, thank you, Sam. Are you?
I'm not too bad, I'm still recovering from Thursday. Gary, give us an idea, or give the fans watching at home an idea of what it was like to be here. I know you tweeted after saying how privileged you were to be here. We were one of the lucky few, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first off, I was incredibly privileged to be there on what should have been a historic night for the club, and I'm sure it will be remembered potentially for some of the wrong reasons as well as the right reasons. But it was also very alien as well. Obviously, a huge club coming to Tinselbank. You know, the stand should have been rocking. There was no free movement around the stadium. People probably don't realise, but there's kind of only sanitised red zones, so you can't walk as you would like to. I mean, it was nice. It was a fantastic opportunity to watch the game, but it was also very, very surreal experience indeed.
I know we're not the first to say it through this lockdown period and this project restart period, etc. But it was interesting to hear just how loud the players are, both sets of players, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very strange actually how the noise travels in an empty stadium. I mean, we could obviously hear the players, even though we were sort of behind glass. You could hear if there was a staff member around in the box, even if there were 10, 15 boxes down, you could almost hear that as well. I've been in the stadium very, very early on match days. I've been in it when it's been empty, but I've never heard anything like it at all. I mean, we could almost hear the instructions being shouted out by the managers as well, which was good.
Well, let's go through the goals then, because Liverpool were absolutely bang at it, weren't they?
Yes, they were. It'll be the first time I've seen the goals as well. I haven't actually watched them back. I mean, we were right under that free kick, and nobody saves it. The best goalkeeper in the world doesn't save that free kick, I'm afraid. I mean, Liverpool played with such intensity. They were pressing us high. I mean, they came here to win the game. Every single one of their players was fully committed to the cause, and I think that showed certainly in the first half.
But you always need positives, don't you? And I guess that second half performance was a big positive for Michael Appleton.
Yeah, I mean, he'll take some positives from the first half. First of all, it was only 4 when Liverpool, I mean, they must have had 90% possession. They were absolutely irresistible. And then coming out in the second half and conceding the opening goal was, within 17 seconds, could have deflated the team. And I think at that point, there was even a part of me that just wanted to pack up and go home. I mean, you see how quickly we conceded here. But to keep going back, I mean, even in the first half when we conceded, we stuck to our game plan. We kept trying to play football the way that we want to play it. We could have gone 2 banks of sort of 4 behind the ball and shut up shop, but that's not technically what we do. So, and then to get the goal, I mean, we talked about sound transference. I'm pretty sure that my dad in Rugby heard me cheer the Lincoln goal.
I was going to say that. I mean, it was you shook the LNER Stadium when Lincoln got on the score sheet. You made me jump, that's for sure.
Well, the thing is, you play a game like this, it's almost inevitable you're going to lose unless the gods lie. Almost inevitable. You want, as you've just alluded to in the last question, to be able to bring a positive away. And a goal was the positive. We wanted to score against the reigning champions. Actually, I think to score 2 was incredible. And it was just that final goal from Origi just took the gloss off what was actually a very respectable scoreline. If it had just been a 4-goal margin against the team that they put out, they've got Champions League winners, they've got players that have been at World Cups. I think we did ourselves proud.
We saw Lewis Monsma there. I believe he's the joint top scorer in the Carabao Cup at the moment.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, we talked about his finishes the other night. We were saying how he's great with his feet. He's got striker's finish. and then he pops up with a really traditional centre-halves goal. We've talked about 20 goal a season strikers in the past. That's the holy grail. But if you've got a defender that's going to get 15, that takes a lot of pressure off some of those forward players.
Were you slightly surprised with the starting lineup that Michael made, or does he have to make those changes ahead of obviously such a big game in the league that we will be coming on to today?
Yeah, I think at this stage of the season, the starting lineup is always very interesting. And I think rather than surprised, it more signalled the intention that Michael has going forward, that in actual fact, the league is where the serious business is. We saw obviously Max Melbourne came in. We saw Anthony Scully came in as well. I think Anthony was tried as a replacement potentially for Callum Morton, who it sounds like we might lose for a while. It wasn't a weakened side by any stretch of the imagination. Key players who we expect to feature today were left out. And I think that points to the league being the serious business. And I think it also sort of suggests that we knew what our lot was on Thursday night. We just wanted to give a good account of ourselves.
Okay, good stuff, Gary. We mentioned Michael Appleton there. These are his post-match thoughts, speaking after the game against Liverpool on Thursday night.
Well, Michael, what do you take from that 90 minutes?
Well, loads. I thought the lads were great, to be honest with you. I thought they were fantastic. I think we got shown a masterclass of finishing in the first half. And unfortunately, we were right behind it as well in the dugout. But listen, we competed well in the first half, I thought, but in the second half, the message was to the players to stay brave, try and be aggressive and try and win the second half. And I really believe, and I don't think I'm being outrageous by saying I believe we should have won the second half. The amount of opportunities we created and clear-cut ones. As it happened, it just shone the difference between the two levels.
As you say, that first half, we were right behind it like you, and as a manager you must almost go, what can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the second and the fourth goal we definitely could have done better. Obviously Lewis got caught trying to play out. There's no way I'm going to stop him doing that. I'm going to continue to encourage him, and he passed the test because I thought he was outstanding tonight, and the way he recovered from that was great, and he got his goal as a reward. And the fourth goal, we got caught a little bit in between two minds, and then they got the little bit of the luck with the deflection. But that's what happens. They're a top quality side. That's the reason why they're Premier League champions.
I suppose the one big disappointment tonight was 17 seconds into the second half. I'm sure keep it tight was one of your messages at half time, and you didn't at the start.
No, yeah, it was a little bit lapsed, a little bit sloppy in the middle of the park from someone who you certainly wouldn't expect to do that as well, and that's part and parcel of the game. But the reaction the players shown after that, they could have literally folded, and it could have been double figures if our character wasn't as strong as what it is. But what they did do, they come back and they got the rewards with a couple of goals, and probably should have scored more.
I was going to say there was plenty of opportunities, wasn't there? There was Harry Anderson thrown goal, Anthony Scully. That was even before the goals went in. I'm not sure of the stats, but second half it felt like you had more shots on goal than Liverpool. Yeah,
and clear-cut ones as well. I'm trying to understand how TJ didn't score, how Theo didn't score. You're right, Harry had a good opportunity, John had a good opportunity, Scully had a couple of chances. So, listen, it's pleasing that we're able to talk about that after what was obviously difficult for the players to take and get punished the way they did in that first half.
You must be glad as well that Liverpool took this game as seriously as they did, and they treated you as opposition with the respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes in this competition you've seen it even over the last couple of evenings where Premier League opposition tend to play some of the younger teams, and Liverpool didn't do that tonight. I've seen some of the results over the last couple of nights, and the Premier League teams up against Championship, League One and League Two teams were averaging 4.5 goals a game, which is some stat. So obviously that was a daunting task that faced the players today, and listen, we've lost the game 7-2, but ultimately I think there's a lot of things that we've won tonight, and hopefully we can take that on for the season.
Yeah, plenty of positives for Michael Appleton to take from that game on Thursday night. And Gary, what will he have learned from this?
I think he will have learned a lot about the character of some of his players. A couple of what might be termed as fringe players, and I don't want that to sound derogatory, but the likes of Theo Eden, perhaps, who hasn't had as much football, came in and put man of the match display in. And certainly, when you're having goals put in with regularity that Liverpool was scoring, it's easy for heads to drop. And I think occasionally there was one or two players that you looked at, it looked like they slumped a tiny bit, but then they came together, everybody got round them, and they just went straight back. And I don't think collectively the heads ever dropped as a team. So I think Michael will have learned an awful lot about the character of certainly some of the younger players and ability as well. In that second half, there was a lot of chances that went begging for us. And some of them weren't clear cut, but we were creating chances. And again, that just shows a real desire and determination. But I do wonder if perhaps Michael already knows that, and it's more a fact that we've learned it rather than him. Yeah,
that's a really good point you make. We may come on to that later on in this show. Let me get to some of your comments then. Always great to hear from you, the fans, of course. Jacob's been in touch. Jacob Langan. Hi, Jacob. Says, looking forward to hopefully maximum points. With all the intensity on Thursday, do you think that this will affect us against Charlton today? Gary, I'll put that to you then.
I would hope not, no. I think that, I don't know for a fact, I would imagine the team probably had Friday off. They may have been in, I don't know. But they're a bunch of professionals who made enough changes, I think, not to be leggy. When you look at the players that were coming off later on in the game, the likes of Liam Bridgecott, etc., it was actually positive for him to get minutes as well. I think had we lost sort of 7-0 and you come away from that feeling that you haven't given a good account of yourselves, then perhaps there's some sort of fallout. But everybody's proud of what was achieved. George Grant was absolutely glowing, I think, post-match. Michael was glowing as well. So really, it was a 7-2 defeat. You'll actually feel like a win. It's great to get back on the grass now and attempt to put that right.
Yeah, we can't wait for a brilliant game today, that's for sure. Jane Craven's been back in touch. Hiya, Jane. Says, great attitude shown by the players against the best team in England. They did themselves proud, and I hope they got the Liverpool shirts they may have asked for. Yeah, we don't quite know what shirts were asked for, but we personally, myself and Gary, didn't see any shirt swapping going on. Maybe that happened in the tunnel after the game, but thanks for getting in touch, Jane. John Davison, he says, going to be a tough game today. Charlton are going to be reinvigorated from the news of finally having a new owner. Yeah, there'll be plenty more of that throughout the show. We'll be speaking to a Charlton Athletic fan later on Matchday Live as well, John. And that's a really interesting point you make, because Charlton, of course, reinvigorated by that news of a new owner and a new signing as well. But they're not the only club, of course, to make a new signing. The Imps announcing the other day that they've made the deal with Brennan Johnson to join the club. He's joined on loan from Nottingham Forest. We caught up with Brennan earlier this week, who says he's delighted to put pen to paper.
Lincoln City, how excited are you to get going?
Yeah, really excited. I mean, as soon as I found out the interest, I was just really happy to come, and hopefully I can repay them with a few games.
I mean, it's your first time up here at the training centre today. How much are you looking forward to getting out here on the pitch?
Yeah, loads. I mean, that's the main objective for me, to come and play some games and really work hard for the team. So yeah, I'm buzzing to be here.
I mean, you made your breakthrough at Forest probably last season, when people noticed you in the first team. You played a number of games there, so this is the next step then, get regular football if you're breaking the team.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the main objective for me, is to get consistent football and show everyone what I can do here.
I mean, in terms of the style of football here, do you think that suits you, and what's the manager said to you about your time here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've watched the first few games of the season. I've been really impressed with the team. I like the way they play football, and I think it really suits me, so hopefully I can help the team as well.
I mean, aside from obviously getting into the team and playing regular football, what's your main aims and objectives from this loan spell?
I think just playing consistently well, hopefully, learning more about the game and trying to have my effect on the game as well, which is goals and assists and just helping the team.
I mean, obviously it's your first time away from Nottingham Forest. You've been there for a long time. What's it like coming away for the first time and coming somewhere else to do your work?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be strange, but I was really looking forward to the challenge of coming up here. It's different to what I've ever done before, so yeah, I'm really excited.
I mean, obviously we've had a bit of a Forest connection. George was at Forest. Did you know George before coming here?
Yeah, I knew George. He's a few years older than me, but I've played with him maybe a few times, and then Bridders as well, which is really nice, because I think it helps me settle in a lot easier.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson speaking to us from a rather windy EPC earlier this week. So he's clearly pleased to put pen to paper, isn't he? And Gary, I know you'll be pleased, because the other half of the Stacey West podcast, the brilliant Stacey West podcast, joins us right now. Ben Ward is here. Ben, delighted to have your company this afternoon. The band are back together.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very strange being able to see Gary and have a conversation with him rather than just doing it over audio. I don't know whether he'll like it or not, but
well,
it's always good.
We'll do you a favour. We won't ask him that question. I will instead ask you about Brennan Johnson. Is this a signing that excites you?
It is. I think the I think the links to Forest obviously show, and I think it's the fact that I've spoken to a couple of Forest fans, and it sounds like he's the kind of player, or he was the player that was sort of seemingly knocking on the door of the first team. Obviously, that's not going to happen at the moment, seeing as they just brought in Lyle Taylor over the summer. So it's he's one of those players, I think, similar to Tyler Walker was in a way last season, where he wanted to get regular football, but maybe wasn't going to get it at Forest. So it makes sense to send him out on loan. And it sounds like, we're building that trust and that relationship with Forest, having had obviously Tyler Walker, Liam Bridcut last season, and obviously George Grant as well coming through. So it's he does excite me. He's young forward. Seems like he's got pace and abundance and a decent finish on him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, Ben, quick one from me, role reversal, me asking you the questions. How important do you think it is for us to have these kind of multiple options going forward?
I mean, obviously, it is key, because I think we're obviously seeing it now with Callum Morton, where someone's been, got an injury of some description, and I think it's key to have replacements available quickly. But I think the other thing as well is, when you've got that healthy competition in the squad, you're going to keep everybody on each other's toes. So you're going to be really pushing for that first team place. And I think if you've got, 3 or 4 people that are fighting over one chance to make it into the first team, they're going to want to impress. So you're going to have that hunger, that desire to really, prove themselves and get into the first team and hopefully bag a few goals.
Ben, what type of player can we expect then in Brennan Johnson?
If I'm brutally honest, I'm not 100% sure. I've not seen a huge amount from from Brennan since
he's still so young, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he's it sounds like he's the kind of player that's going to be able to get in behind defenses and really sort of terrorise them a little bit, I guess. It's going to be a really interesting, season when he does sort of get into the first team and see how he gets on. I'm really hopeful that this is a deal that will work out for all parties, because I think we've definitely seen the best from. Well, I think we saw the best from Tyler Walker last season before, unfortunately, he disappeared. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, Tyler Walker, another Nottingham Forest man, or former Nottingham Forest man. How much are the Imps benefiting from a good relationship with Forest?
I mean, it obviously looks like Forest. We've got that key working relationship with them now. As I said earlier, you've got Liam Bridcut came on loan last season, and then when his contract expired, he seemed to enjoy the club, or he seemed to like the club and the manager so much that he's decided to sign permanently. And obviously, had George Grant as well, with much the same thing, that he decided to come here permanently. But I think those links are being forged now, and whether that's through the coaching of Michael Appleton, or the relationships that Bez and the board are forming, it seems like it's going to be beneficial to us, because obviously with it being a fairly local club as well, local championship club, they're going to be looking to blood some of the youngsters in, and what better place to do it at a club sort of up the road.
He knows his stuff, doesn't he, Gary? I feel like I'm third wheeling at the moment. Podcast. Okay, well, Ben, do stay with us, because we're going to hear from Michael Appleton now. We heard from him earlier, but he's been talking about the new signing, Brennan Johnson. He says he's a player that's been on the radar for a while.
Delighted, as you're probably aware, because we've made it pretty public, and I think people are trying to guess about the potential striker that's been coming in, or potentially coming in, for numerous weeks now, and delighted to get him over the line.
But in terms of Brennan, what is it then that you see? Because he's played 8 times for Forest already. His career's growing. What do you see in him?
Well, massive potential, as I'm sure obviously Forest see that. He's certainly someone who can play in numerous roles. He can play as a 9, he can play as a 10. We've seen him play at Forest as an 8, which is good as well. So he can adapt to play in various positions and certain different types of styles. And I think that the most important thing for him at the minute is to get games, and I think Forest realise that. They've been fantastic with us. We've had to wait a long time for Brennan. He's always been in our mindset. I think I mentioned yesterday after the game, going back 6 weeks when we were trying to sort out the squad, the budget, make sure everything is in tune. He was always part of that, and that's why we've been so patient, and that's why we're so happy that we've got him now.
I mean, you mentioned being patient there, and you mentioned him before. Could you give us a little insight into what the waiting was, why it took so long?
Yeah, I mean, lots of things really. Obviously, I suppose Forrest and Brennan himself probably had to, make a decision whether he was going to get enough game time. The reality is, we've worked really hard and had a close relationship with Forrest, and, under normal circumstances, we're not getting Brennan. We can't afford Brennan. But Forrest has been really, really good for us and really, really good to us. And there won't be too many clubs who are getting Brennan's services for what we are in terms of the finances. And not only that, they trust us to look after Brennan on the pitch and off the pitch. I'd like to think that we've built a relationship that can continue for many years.
Yeah, Michael Appleton certainly delighted to get his man then. Ben, let's bring you back in because I want to ask you about the amount of goals that he might be able to score then, because it's back in 2015-16 that we saw a 20-goal a season man. Of course, Matt Reed, we know of Simon Yeo going back to 2004-5 as well. Could this potentially be another 20-goal a season man?
Potentially. I mean, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of relying on one man to get all the goals for the team, but particularly when we've got the quality that we have all across the side, we can get goals from anywhere, and it's something that I think Lincoln City as a club have done for quite a while. We've definitely had that over the past few seasons, but it's nice to see that you've got that kind of talisman. I mean, obviously, you say that the two names there will be, two people that will be on the wall in the Legends Lounge, if you like. We've got Simon Yeo, we've got Matt Reed. And I think if Brennan comes in and gets the game time that he needs, which it sounds from Michael that he's obviously going to be a key part of the squad, I think he's probably going to try his best to stake that claim for that title of a 20-goal a season frontman.
What about the Imps as a whole so far this season then? Who's stood out for you? Who's been the couple of ones that you've really enjoyed watching or perhaps have been slightly positively surprised about?
I mean, the positive surprise for me, first off, has got to be Sean Rowan. I'm amazed that he's 17 and he's putting in performances of somebody that's well above his years. He's so physically dominant in that position. I think he's come in and it's going to be difficult to try and prize that spot away from him long term, I think. But Lewis Montsma as well. You guys mentioned it a little bit earlier, the fact that he's been able to get up to the front and get a couple of goals as well, both with his head and with his feet. He's, for a defender, that's something that you can only really dream of. So I'm really pleased with that. But I think the biggest positive so far for me this season's got to be Harry Anderson. There was quite a few people over the close season or, leading up to the first few games where they were doubting him a little bit and maybe saying, is he going to be up for this season? Is he going to be, performing to the standards that he has done? And honestly, I just think the way that he's come about, the way that he's come on this, over close season, he's getting ahead of defenders, putting crosses in, but he's also, playing in a different way as well, where he's actually able to, not just sort of put his head down and run, which has kind of been what he's done in the past, but he's also, been a bit more of a playmaker as well. And I've been genuinely really impressed with how Harry Anderson started the season.
Yeah, Gary, I know that's something that you said on the show last week as well. We've both been really sort of impressed with Harry's development, certainly over the years, of course, but he just has taken it up another notch, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, he's still doing what Harry does best, which is its pace, its power, it's bullish. He's kind of got one set in, all in, and he's down that line. But it's kind of what Ben said there about him being a playmaker. He's absolutely right. He's kind of coming in more now. I think he's managing to cut in with the ball rather than just running in straight lines. He's also got a great knack, hasn't he, of popping up in and around the 6-yard area. And again, we saw it in patches certainly at the beginning of last season. So I think that Harry's always had that in his locker. I think that he's always had these attributes. It's whether he can do it consistently. That's the key. Because if you can have Harry Anderson, the same kind of quality as he had at the beginning of last season, as he's showing now, if you have that over 46 games, then you've got a hugely impressive player and somebody who could be sliding in under the radar in terms of bigger clubs having a look, because he offers so many unique attributes that players normally at this level, or certainly wingers, don't offer.
Getting close to kickoff time. Let me go to some of your comments. then. Steve Byatt's been in touch, says, don't be disheartened, keep your spirits high and enjoy the game. 2-0 win would be great, wouldn't it, Steve? You have the ability to work hard and play hard. Come on, you Imps. Yep, certainly so, Steve. Good to hear from you. Rob Scott agrees with Ben Shout on Rowan. He says Rowan is the biggest prospect we've had for years. Massive potential. Bodes well, doesn't it? Reese Marshall says George Grant has been unreal for us so far this season. He is going to be the key for us going forward. Yeah, Ben, I know that speaking on the podcast, George is a player that you really like, isn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely taken on that sort of vice captain mantle quite well. The fact that he's still only 25 is beyond me a little bit, really. He's matured quite a lot, and I think a lot of that's down to Michael Appleton's coaching. He's definitely willing to take on that responsibility, and I think he's going to be a key player for us this season.
Yeah, Gary, how far can George go?
He's obviously got the ability to play in the Championship, hopefully with us. I think, again, with that level of maturity, he's now able to play a little deeper. He's added the defensive elements to his game, something that Michael obviously has spoken about post-Wimbledon last year when he was brought off at half-time. I think the point with George Grant is that we've always seen this. I remember him tearing us apart in Notts County. He then obviously got the move to Luton, which didn't quite work out for him. Mansfield didn't quite work out for him. It does just go to show you that if you've got the right attributes, then it's the environment that makes all the difference as well. And we've seen George really rise to the occasion. When you think about how many players have risen to the occasion from the squad of last season, post Michael, 2, maybe, I think that says everything you need to know about it.
Yeah, Rob says, much more important game today than Thursday. I don't think we'll have had any bad effects from Thursday night. Yep, fingers crossed on that one, Rob. Kev Barwise, good to hear from you, Kev. So it's very important that the confidence in the defence as a whole remains high. A clean sheet would be most welcome, as would a point to maintain the unbeaten league record. Yeah, not a bad shout, Kev, although let's as well go for all 3, though, mightn't we? Steve Byatt, yeah, we've seen Steve before. Good to hear from you, Steve. Okay, well, keep your comments coming in anyway, because we've got plenty of time on this show. We'll get to your comments as soon as we can. A reminder that the 50-50 draw is still taking place, despite the fact that, of course, there are no fans still at the LNER at the moment. So please do, if you can, be purchasing your 50-50 tickets. They're £1 a ticket to do so. There are links on our social media channels and website. Ben, I'll leave the final word on this part for you then. Your score predictions and scorer today and your reasons for picking it.
Dropping me in it there, Sam. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think obviously Charlton are going to have a bit of a spring in the step after after the news about the takeover being completed. But it's always difficult when you have that sort of regime change, whether it's management or ownership. But I think, having taken a lot of positives from Thursday night, I think the boys will be up for it. I think 1-0 Hopper, I think, will do me today.
Ben, you navigated it very, very well indeed. Looking forward to hearing plenty more of your thoughts throughout this season, no doubt. Thanks for joining us.
No worries, man. Cheers. Bye.
Great stuff. Ben Ward there, part of the Stacey West podcast. You can get all the details for that on staceywest.net. Well, it is time for the team news. Mr. Alan Long was on hand to read out some of the world's biggest names in football on Thursday night, and he's going to be doing exactly the same again because, of course, he's giving us the Lincoln City team news. Let's go live pitchside now to hear from Alan Long.
Thanks very much, Sam. Yeah, welcome pitchside. As you can see, it's all very quiet behind me, but as always, I've got the teams here, so I'm going to start off with our visitors from Charlton. So in goal, number 13 is Ben Amos. At number 3, Ben Purrington. At 4 is Deji Oshalala. Akin Femwelko is at 5. At number 9, Macaulay Bonne. 10 is Connor Washington. 15, Darren Prattley. 18, Alfie Doughty. Erzan Otsuma is at 20. 23 is Dylan Levette. And 48, Charlie Baker. On the bench for Athletic today, we've got 30, Ashley Maynard Brewer. 7, Johnny Williams. 8, Jake Forster-Caskey. 25, Josh Davidson. Ben Watson's at 26. 32 is George Lapsley. And James Vennings is at number 35. Right, here we go with the Imps lineup. So in goal, we've got number 1, Alex Palmer. At 4, Lewis Monsmer. 5, Adam Jackson. At 8, James Jones. Number 9 is Tom Hopper. 10, George Grant. Conor McGrandles comes in at number 18. 22, TJ Ioma. William Brigcott is at 23. 26, Harry Anderson. And 30, Sean Rowan. On the bench for the Imps today, we've got number 29, Ethan Ross, number 7, Theo Aidan, 11, Anthony Scully, 14, Theo Archibald, Remy Howarth is at 17, Brennan Johnson makes his debut at 20, and at 25 is Zach Elbazedi. Today's referee is Mark Edwards, the assistants Peter Gooch and Abbas Khan, and Hristof Karanevov, which is a great name, is our fourth official. Okay, so I'm very pleased to say that I've got a guest here. Max, if you'd like to come in. Nice to see you, Max.
Nice to see you.
The other night, Max, I was just talking to Max, he tells me, a bit of a Liverpool fan. So what was it like playing against the Reds?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty a surreal experience. We knew the task at hand was going to be big. We knew they were going to come quite strong. Evidently they did. So yeah, I mean, it was, on a personal note, yeah, a very good experience. But as a team, I mean, what a great, experience and challenge to play against the very best.
I hate to say this, but who were you meant to be marking? Or?
I was marking Origi off a corner.
Well, there you go. He hardly got a kick, did he? So, now there's a lot being said about fans not being in stadiums at the moment. We were just talking off air how eerie it is out here. What's it like as a player not having fans in a stadium?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the stadium's known for its, atmosphere and stuff and everything that, when we're out on the pitch, you can always hear the fans roaring. So playing in an empty stadium, can be quite different. However, we've got a great bunch of lads and everyone knows they need to get themselves up for the game. So
yeah, so we're back to league business today. Charlton are in town. We haven't played them for a long time. How do you see how the lads feeling and how do you see the game going?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we already know the task at hand. So as soon as the full-time whistle went on Thursday, we knew that our focus was straight to today's game. The lads are up for it, and we know what we've got to do, and we know we're going to go try and get the 3 points.
Well, brilliant, Max. Thanks for coming and chatting to Matchday Live. Have a yeah, but I don't know. Can we do that? Maybe not. We'll do that. Have a great day. Go and have a nice cup of coffee. And Sam, that's it from pitch side. Back up to you in the studio.
Alan Long, ever the professional. Much appreciated. And of course, good to hear your dulcet tones. Good to hear from Max Melbourne as well. Gary, not involved in the squad today. What are your thoughts on the team overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's reverted to type, really, hasn't it? Sean Rowan's come back in. I think we kind of expected that. Certainly expected Tom Hopper to come back into the side as well. Conor McGrandles replaces Theo Eden, and I think they're the players that perhaps needed a little bit of a rest. Adam Jackson is back. Adam's obviously incredibly experienced. I think he adds a little bit of weight to Monsma's kind of free roaming capabilities. You always kind of need one defender, and one ball-playing defender. I think we certainly need one to weigh in the other. But look at the bench, very, very attacking as well, isn't it? You've got Scully, Archibald, Howarth, Johnson and Elbazedi. Huge attacking options there. So it would suggest to me that Michael is fairly confident at the back that we can shut them out. But then he's just got so many options. I mean, it's frightening to think what combination of players could end the game in the front three.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you raise about the back four, because the only real change that he's made is that sort of tinkering, isn't it, between Max Melbourne and Sean Rowan as well. How important is it to have a settled back line so early on in this potentially crazy season that we seem to be involved in?
I think it's important at both ends of the field, certainly the way that we play, because the fullbacks are very much a part of kind of the attacking phase. So for the fullbacks to be able to create relationships with the midfield and certainly with the players ahead of them is really important. When you consider the age of the two fullbacks, it was only a fortnight ago that they both made their Football League debuts, TJ Aoma and Sean Rowan. Let's not underestimate the size of Aoma's progression, the rate of Aoma's progression, rather. We're all talking about Rowan, and rightly so. Aoma's only 19 as well. I mean, he was a monster, I thought, at central defence in midweek. Thought he had a great game, could have scored. Really flexible that he's been able to drop out onto out to wide areas as well. So it's nice to see it settling down. I do predict when Joe Walsh comes back in, that gives Michael a selection headache. And Aaron Lewis is fit. There's a potential selection headache there. Max obviously not playing today, acquitted himself very well as well in midweek. So not just a settled defence, but also a whole array of players waiting to come in and make a difference if there's a slip.
Yeah, Josh says Johnson on the bench. He could bring something against the tired legs of defenders late on. Yep, fingers crossed indeed, Josh. Cornell says, love the options on our Imps bench. And Rob Scott says, cracking bench for us. Wow, yeah, it certainly is an exciting bench, isn't it? I think, touch wood, we can expect some goals from Lincoln City today. Fingers crossed. Anyway, okay. We haven't mentioned MK Dons yet, Gary. Of all this, everything that's been going on this week, that win has sort of passed us by, hasn't it? But how big a win was it, and the manner of the victory?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was a huge win. It was nice to go away and get 3 points. That was our Achilles heel last season, wasn't it? We would go to away games and we'd end up getting beat by a solitary goal. I remember Coventry and Oxford both doing that with lots of possession. So it was nice to go away, face a team that liked possession and still come away with the win. Again, the manner of the win as well. I think we discussed it in midweek to a degree, but the fact that we had to grind it out, we had to fight, we had to show that application, and again, the right attitude, being 1-0 up and then going down to 1-1. Last season, I think that would have been a catalyst for us to either scrabble on for a point or maybe even lose the game. We showed some real commitment to come back and get the winning goal.
Yeah, it is a case, isn't it, of grinding out the victories. How important is that aspect of play going to be going forward?
I think it's incredibly important, perhaps more so because there are no supporters in the stands, because it actually allows us to probably play a little bit deeper than we would without the pressure, certainly at home, of the fans kind of screaming, get it forward, get into them, all that sort of thing. So I think actually there's, you have to look for the silver lining for the big cloud that's hanging over us at the moment. Potentially, just being able to play at a slightly slower pace, being able to keep it tight through the centre is actually helping us. And when you look at the start that we've had, 3 possession-based teams, including Charlton today as well, we would expect to have less possession in those games. And again, a repeat of last week's performance and result would be just the ticket today.
Had a tough night, didn't he, Alex Palmer, the other night? And you can't blame him after some of the shooting that Liverpool put forward to him. But he made some brilliant saves in this game, didn't he?
I think this is the one, isn't it? I mean, look at that. The guy's, 10 yards out, and Alex has just made himself big. And, he's a top goalkeeper. He'll learn from Thursday night, beg pardon. He had an awful lot of efforts to try and deal with. And, he's just going to keep getting better and better.
Lincoln are going to have a rare Tuesday off this coming week. How important is that for them? Because, as I said, it is a rare one to have that now with the season starting late and everything that's come about with that.
Yeah, exactly. I think, again, the benefits are twofold, if I'm honest. I think, first of all, not having the game is going to allow some of the players maybe who are carrying knocks to come up to speed. It might be good for Aaron Lewis. It'd certainly be good for the likes of Liam Bridcut, who's coming back to fitness to now have a rest after getting minutes in and 2 consecutive starts. It's also going to be really important in terms of preparation for next week's game, because Michael's proven so far this season that in actual fact, the preparation is just as meticulous as anybody we've had here before. He understands the opposition just as well as anybody that we've had here before. So to have 5 days to focus on the opposition, to put our game plan together, not just how we're going to beat them, but how we're going to stop them as well, I think that actually bodes really, really well. And I think we'll be in a much better position when we take the field next Saturday, for instance, than we might be in a 3-day turnaround.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. Okay, let's get to some more of your comments then. Karen says, very excited for the Imps today. Very proud of them scoring 2 goals against a top team. Certainly so. Dan Lambert has been in touch. He says, Lincoln 3-0. You heard it here first. Fingers crossed indeed, Dan. Dan White says, Gary Hutchinson, great punditry. Better than most on the TV. Yeah, he's brilliant, is Gary. No doubt about that. Good stuff. Okay, so we've chatted on the whole about Lincoln City so far, haven't we? Let's now get a view from the opposition. Here's what manager Lee Bowyer had to say, speaking yesterday at the Charlton Athletic training ground.
Well, obviously only one place to start really with developments today. Fair bit of drama with the announcement about Thomas, taking control of the football club. Just your general thoughts first of all on it.
Obviously over the moon that it's finally happened. Been told so many times for so long now, it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen this day, it's going to happen that day. So for finally get it over the line, I'm delighted, not just for myself, but everybody to do with the football club, everyone that works here, all the fans, the players, everyone, because it's a big day for the club.
It'll be a second successive away game against newly promoted sides, and they've started well, and so they're going to be a tough test.
Yeah, good side. Good side. I've watched them a couple of times, and I watched them again last night against Liverpool. It was a bit false last night, Liverpool was very, very good. But yeah, I've watched them. They're strong. They're physical. The one thing that stands out to me is their physicality and their intensity. They're the two things that really stood out for me in the games that I watched. So we have to turn up, and we're going to have to compete, because that's a big part of their game. And so as long as we do that, then we've got a good chance.
The very softly spoken Lee Bowyer there. Good to hear from Lee. Let's now bring in a Charlton Athletic blogger. Tyler Rawlinson joins us. Tyler, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. First of all, a big congratulations on the news that you've sorted your ownership issues there at Charlton, particularly in this day and age with everything that's going on. That's big news, and I'm sure from one EFL club to another, delighted for you. How big a news is that for you?
It's absolutely massive, absolutely huge for this club. It's something that we've been crying out for a number of years. Since 2014, we've been under such dire ownership with Rowan de Châtelet, and then last year we thought East Street Investments or ESI were our saviours, and then they turned out to be just as bad. But with this ownership, it's a fresh air. Thomas Sandgaard, Danish businessman, and he gets it. He gets this club. He realises that this isn't just the club; it's a family, it's a community, and he understands what needs to be done. He has a lot of visions and expectations, and I think that with him on board, with the investment that he'll give Lee Bowyer and Steve Gallen, I think we could go on a journey together. We're building a really, really good team here.
Yeah, what does news like this mean for the fans? Because it is such a big club, isn't it, Charlton Athletic?
Yeah, it is, and it's massive for the fans. I mean, as I've said, it's something that this club needed badly, and I think what the fans needed, what was missing between the ownership and the fans over this past few years, was the connection between the owners and the fans, which was non-existent. I think now with Sandgaard coming in, I mean, he's been very, very vocal. He's been speaking with the fans consistently. He's already been to quite a few of our games this season already, and he's been staying in contact. And the fans who were there against Doncaster last week when we had 1,000 fans in, they gave him a hero's welcome, even when the deal wasn't even done at that stage. But we treated him like he was one of our own, like he was part of the family. So it's the breath of fresh air that this fans needed, and I think that it's something that this club needed badly.
Early days, of course, in the league, but a slightly indifferent start. Is it almost a case of the reset button has been hit with this news now, and the league almost starts today?
Yeah, you could say that. I think the first two games against Crewe and Doncaster, I think that obviously I've said this in my videos that our team then wasn't a finished product. We had a lot of work to do. We had our hands tied. We had problems that we couldn't fix. Now that those problems have been fixed, as you say, it's almost like the league starts today against Lincoln.
Yeah, just a quick question from me. Obviously, you picked up Ben Watson. I don't think he's in the team today. And the young lad, I think, from Norwich City, the centre-back, is in the team. Were you expecting that sort of news? And also Dylan Levitt, some player that I'm really, really interested in. What sort of threat can we expect from the former Man United man?
It's actually Levitt's first start today in the league. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm interested to see how he gets on. I know that Man U rate him very highly. Nicky Butt there went as far as saying that he's the best passer at Man United. So I think he did play in the Carabao Cup tie against West Ham, and I definitely saw glimpses of that. His vision was fantastic. I think today he'll definitely cause some problems. I think he's going to be a bright player for us. Akin Famowo, the Norwich player, starts today. I expected him to play with the defensive line being as weak as it is. We've only got one first-team centre-back that's fully fit, that being Oshilaja. And Famowo, I'm really excited by him. 21, 6'3", absolutely massive. He'll certainly be a problem. Ben Watson, on the bench. Again, I think he'll be a really good player for us as well. Obviously, come off the back of a really strong season with Nottingham Forest, was their captain. I remember seeing on social media some Forest fans even went as far as saying he was their best player last season. So that's definitely something positive to take from that. But yeah, Watson's going to be he'll be a good player as well for us.
Tyler, let me ask you about Macaulay Bonne. He's a player that Lincoln had back in the National League days, back around 2016-17 season. We can see one of his biggest moments in an Imps green shirt on this occasion, scoring in a 1-0 win away at Tranmere Rovers. Then went to Leyton Orient, of course, and then signed for Charlton, and has been a pretty brilliant signing for you, I believe.
Yeah, he has. Last season, obviously, come over from the National League from Leyton Orient, only 200 grand he cost us, which was an absolute bargain. when Lyle Taylor got injured, he had to step up, and he did exactly that. He finished with 11 goals last year. This season, though, it's been a bit of a slow start for him. He's not bagged a goal yet. I'm not really too sure what it is. I think we've been adopting a 4-3-3 formation with Doughty and Connor Washington out on the wing, Bon as the central striker. What I think has been happening is that we've adopted the same long ball tactic from last season, where we just ping the ball over to the attackers. Bon has, for some reason, struggled in that position, so he's not done as well as I probably would have hoped to start. But it is early days. In the day, it's only 2 games, and so I hope that he does find his feet. But it's been quite a lacklustre start for Bon. But overall, yes, it's been a fantastic signing for the club. Obviously, for what he did last season, the step he had to take, he had to go up had to step up 3 divisions from the National League to the Championship, and to finish as our joint top scorer, I believe, with Lyle Taylor, is impressive. And considering the price that we paid, it was an absolute bargain. I hope that he does find his feet very quickly, though, for this season, because I do believe he is a striker that can get 15 to 20 goals a season. I think he is capable of doing that.
So which other players should we be looking out for today then on iFollow?
Alfie Doughty for sure. He's got an abundance of pace. He's absolutely rapid, and he's got a really good eye for goal as well. Connor Washington, 2-in-2 for him so far this season. He's been playing out on the right wing position, but again, he's done very well. And also Johannes Tuma as well in the centre of midfield. He's starting for the first time this season as well, which is again very interesting. Absolute midget, 5'3", but he's very, very technical, very technically good player, a lot of pace, and he's definitely going to cause you problems. There's a lot of players to look out for our team today. I'm impressed with our lineup.
Just going through the comments from Lincoln City fans, the slight consensus is this might not be the best time to play Charlton because, of course, buoyed by that brilliant news for them over the last couple of days. Do you feel that, from your perspective, that this is just a great time to be playing a team towards the top of the league?
I'd say so, yeah. It's definitely a test for what our team can do. Our team is still not, it's not really the final picture yet. We still have a lot of work to do, still need to bring in a lot more bodies, but obviously with the takeover news and with players coming into the side, Famewo and Watson and players like that, it is a good time to play teams at the top. Obviously Lincoln have had a fantastic start to the season. They've looked pretty good, very physical side and capable of causing problems, but this is I think this is the perfect time for our team to see where we're at, and then from next week where we take on Sunderland, and then when deadline day approaches, we can see what needs to be done and what players need to come in. This is the perfect time to play the Imps.
Tyler, we'll finish as we always do with a score prediction and scorer prediction from yourself, please.
It's going to be tough. It will be a tight little game against Lincoln, but I will be optimistic. I will say that we'll kick off the Thomas Sandgaard era with a 2-1 win.
Well, we really appreciate your time. Of course, fingers crossed that you're not quite right on that prediction, but thank you very much indeed. We'll let you go and get settled and enjoy the game.
Thanks for having me on.
Great stuff indeed. Tyler Rawlinson, I'm sure you can find all the details to his Charlton Athletic blog on his various Twitter platforms and in YouTube as well. Okay, so that is a view from the opposition, of course. We've heard from Michael Appleton a couple of times in the show so far, but we haven't heard him talking about today's game. This is what he had to say about it.
Yeah, tough test. It's going to be a difficult one. I think, Lee's done a fantastic job at Charlton. I think everyone's aware of that and seen that. They've got some good, talented players. They had a disappointing result on Saturday, so I'm sure they'll want to do something about that. They've had a free week this week. They'll come in and probably want to make sure that they've got a lot of energy in the first half because of obviously what's happened tonight. They'll probably be hoping that we haven't. So we're going to have to look after the players between now and Sunday, and we will do, and hopefully we've got the amount of energy and sort of athleticism that we had and we showed tonight into Sunday's game.
You played 2 league games against sides that are used to having the ball and like to keep hold of the ball. Is it similar for Charlton, or do they play in a different manner?
No, they do. They are similar, there's no doubt about it. I don't think they have as much as what the previous 2 sides had, so it might be a little bit closer from that point of view. And it's one of them, like I say, I want to play a brand of football that's exciting and gets me off my seat, never mind fans off the seat or if they're watching back home. And it's not always the case that possession's the key. It's what type of possession and where you have the ball. And, that was my message to you guys and to everyone before, obviously, the Oxford and MK game. And the way they turned out, I'll take that again if that's the case. But let's see what happens on Sunday.
And does it give you, with Saturday, I know you can't necessarily go to matches as you would have done, but back at the back end of last season, but it gives you time to reflect on how the league's gone so far in terms of not just yourself but the rest of the teams involved?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be at a game, don't worry about that. But yeah, it's one of them where two things, you're right, does give you a chance to sort of have a little bit of breather, knowing that after the weekend we've got a free week next week and we can look forward to giving the players a little bit of a break. But at the same time, it's a massive game Sunday. Let's make no bones about it. Sunday's a 10 times bigger game than what tonight's been. Tonight's been financially rewarding for the football club, but in terms of what's at stake, 3 points on Sunday is much more important.
Of course, you're never going to be happy when your side lose 7-2, but are you happy with how tonight's gone in a sense?
I think it's difficult not to be happy tonight. It's one of them where people might find that confusing, but the reality is we're playing the Premier League champions. I think you've seen over the last, like say, 2 nights the amount of goals that's been scored by Premier League teams, and that was always the fear. But I think the way the players responded to that and kept going, and like I said, there was a lot of really, really good things, certainly from an attacking point of view. It's just that final bit, what they showed us tonight was how to score goals, because we created a lot of chances as well in that second half, but we never had that killer instinct to finish it off.
I love hearing him speak about the brand of football, saying that he wants to play a type of football that not only gets the fans off their seat, but gets him off the seat as well. That bodes so well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think what also bodes well is the first to admit that you can't do it all the time. And I think that shows a balance between having a philosophy and common sense. Pre-season, I spoke up the fact that we were going to play our game and just our game. That had left us exposed as of drawing games against the likes of Southend and Gillingham. And instead, actually, what we're seeing is this really nice kind of measured approach. We're happy that if we can't play our football, that we can stop the other team playing and wait for our chances. But we always stick to our philosophy. We did it on Thursday night against Liverpool. We did it against MK Dons. We did it against Oxford. And in reality, there were 3 strong performances from us. So, yeah, I think it bodes really well. I just love listening to Michael speak because he's just pragmatic and he's relatable.
Yeah, there is something about the way he talks. It's almost as if he's grown into this role as well. Now he's had a chance to get his feet under the table. We heard that from Oxford fans, didn't we? That give him a bit of chance, both sort of on the pitch, but perhaps off it as well. And he looks very much like this is his club, is his home, and that he just can't wait to try and see how far he can take this club.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when Michael came in, this was very much somebody else's club and very much somebody else's vision. And so it's always going to be hard to kind of turn that around. I think the successful modern managers these days, they don't just create a team, they create an environment. It's about every little detail. And, Arsene Wenger was one of the first people to kind of really do that, I think, in the English game, certainly the Premier League. And Michael's learned from that. Let's look at some of the managers he's managed under. Sir Alex Ferguson, for instance, he worked on. You can feel it now. I said it when I went down to the training ground. You can feel it's his jungle. He's so much more confident. And that's not saying he wasn't confident before. You can just feel it. He's comfortable in his surroundings, and we're going to see the benefits of that.
Absolutely. Let me get to some of your comments then. You can see good pictures of the players warming up here at the LNER Stadium. If you can hear any atmosphere or any music coming, that's coming off the speaker system, of course, but hopefully you can hear me loud and clearly. Larry Langham, good to hear from you. Larry says, up the Imps. Thank you for another cracking professional show. Appreciate your comment today, Larry. Thanks very much. The club is improving in all areas, both on and off the field. 2-0 Lincoln. Simon Chanter, Sid the Imp, I believe, says 3-1 to the Imps. Dash Elkington, this is quality. Good insight into everything. Hopefully it carries on all season. Yet we're enjoying it, Dash, and hopefully you're enjoying the show at home as well. Of course, you'd rather be here. We'd rather you be here as well. But it is what it is at the moment, isn't it? Red Imposter, back in touch. Good to hear from you, the Red Imposter. It says, based on current form, this one for you, Gary, and good recruitment so far, realistically, where can we be at the end of the season?
That's a very open-ended question because there's so many of the variables to take in as well. Look, I've said it since the beginning of the season. I don't think finishing somewhere around 10th would be unrealistic. I think if we start talking about things like playoffs, we're very, very premature at the moment. Remember the aspirational squad. To have aspirations, you have to have room to manoeuvre and progress, I think. And, if we were starting saying playoffs, then we're starting heaping all sorts of pressure up. I don't expect us to go into March looking down and kind of just wondering, are we going to get enough points? But realistically, let's say 10th, maybe nudging one other place, who knows?
I'm just having a look at trying to get the team news up for you. I've lost, if we can play in the graphic, and I'll give you the team news once more. We are running out of time on this show, but I'll direct you towards iFollow, of course, at the end of it. But here's the starting lineup anyway. In goal, it's Alex Palmer, TJ Omer, Lewis Monsma, Adam Jackson, Sean Rowan, Liam Brigcutt, Conor McGrandles, James Jones make up the midfield three. And then it's that familiar starting three up front, isn't it? George Grant, Harry Anderson and Tom Hopper. On the bench, now this is a really attacking bench. If you're only just joining us now, you can lick your lips at this one because we've got Ethan Ross, of course, the goalkeeper. Then we've got Teo Eden, Anthony Scully, Theo Archibald, Remy Howarth, the new signing as well, Brennan Johnson and Zach El-Bazedi. So that's a really exciting attacking lineup from Michael Appleton this afternoon. Hopefully we'll be seeing some goals at the LNER Stadium. That just about brings us out of time. I want to finish today's show by saying a huge congratulations to the Lincoln City supporter liaison officers, some of whom have been up to the summit of Mount Snowdon. Now, they've done this very early this morning. They're doing it to raise money for audio descriptive commentary at the LNER Stadium. It's a brilliant idea. They've raised their target of £3,000, but you can still donate. You can do that by going onto the SLO Facebook page as well. Take a look at this.
Hi guys, what time did he say it was?
About 10 to 5.
It's 10 to 5 in the morning. What, we're halfway?
Yes.
We're halfway. There's Steve.
Hello.
That big flash of light. We're on track. I'm nearly there. There is the summit. That is our view. And the sun is just beginning to rise over there. Oh my God. It's tough. Really tough.
I bet it was absolutely freezing up there around about 4:30, 5:30 this morning. Well done to everyone. A huge congratulations. There we sit. What a brilliant photo that is as well. Well done to Lindsay Warwick, husband Chris, Jane Chamberlain, Sally Campbell, Steve Donner, Darren Pearce and Gareth Drakes. Thank you very much indeed for your brilliant support. A reminder, you can donate to this brilliant idea by going onto the Lincoln City SLO supporters Facebook page. You can do that now and you can donate via the Just Giving page. That is us just about out of time, of course, approaching 2:30. A reminder that you can get your iFollow pass now by going on to www.weareimps.com/iFollow. If you do so now, you'll be able to hear all the build-up with Michael Horton and Steve Thompson on BBC Radio Lincolnshire. Most importantly, enjoy the game. Can Lincoln City continue that perfect start in League One? Fingers crossed they do so. Bye for now.